You know, Mike, we always talk about how the one-offs are our favorite and the weirder the better. And we've covered some weird stuff on the show over the years.
Like dick-nosed aliens.
Dick nose always comes to mind. The sky spitter.
Always. Oh, I love the sky spitter. That's one of my favorites of all time. It's just the weirdest shit, and it's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and there's always the classics like the Dover Demon that were, it's only seen once or twice. But thanks to our buddy, Josh Pruitt, he sent us something that I had never heard of before.
Nice.
Wondered if it was something that you've heard of. Studying this type of stuff, you come across everything. We've joked about how cryptozoology is almost like DC Comics. There's a blank man everything. Goatman, Sheepman.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on and on.
Bunnyman, Mothman. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's one I've come across that I've never thought I would hear about. Have you ever heard of elephant humanoids?
No. I mean, not outside of like comic books.
Right?
Yeah, pretty much that's about it. Is there an Elephantman cryptid?
I don't know. See, that's where this gets weird, because much like the whole quote kangaroo thing, there's not too many things that attribute this thing to being an elephant by their description. So the first sighting took place, they call this thing the Narrabeen Monster. And that's a lake. It's the largest of three, located along the coast of Sydney's North Beach in New South Wales. And that's where it was seen for the first time. It occurred at 1:15 p.m. on April 3rd, 1968. We get most of this information from a few newspaper reports, one from the April 6, 1968 edition of the Daily Telegraph and the April 25th edition of the Sun Mirror. And it reports that one Miss Mabel Walsh and her nephew John were driving along the Wakehurst Parkway alongside the Narrabeen Lake, where they noticed a strange shape wading in the shallows of the water just off the road. And Miss Walsh described the creature as follows. It was a bit over 4 feet tall, with dark gray, rough, leathery skin, like an elephant's. It had small front legs, and it walked on its hind legs, which were thick and round like an elephant's. I didn't notice a tail or ears, but it had small eyes and a smaller front legs or arms. Its head reminded me of an anteater's. Its trunk was rigid, squared off at the end, and stuck out at an angle. She also said it came out of the water, stood on its hind legs, headed off into the bush in a real fast, shambling sideways run. It ambled out of the lake and ran into the scrub. It had a strange shuffling walk, but it was quite fast. It shocked me. It was a peculiar looking thing. I've never seen anything like it. We only saw it for a few seconds. She was also quoted as saying, quote, I stopped the car, but had to wait for traffic to pass before I could back up, but the thing had gone. We were in a hurry. I had to get John to the airport. I didn't have time to call anyone or check it out. So this thing, if you can imagine a little humanoid being that has rough leathery-like skin like an elephant's, we can all imagine. A lot of us have been to zoos and, where they unfortunately cage those things, but got to touch their skin and assume what that's like if you haven't. But having a trunk, but no giant ears that are, so often associated with elephants. I mean, this is like a Lovecraftian monster, if you think about it.
Or a mammoth man, because mammoths didn't have the big ears like elephants have. So maybe it was a mammoth man.
That would be awesome.
It's like Bigfoot. It's just this 12-foot tall man with a mammoth head.
Ugh.
It's like something from those old like Jason and the Argonauts or the Seven Voyages of Sinbad.
Exactly. I was gonna say some like Percy Jackson monster.
Yeah, just this big stop motion claymation monster with an elephant head. Just fucking shit up. Screw the Kraken. We want Mammoth Man. Mammoth Man.
You got to give him a name, dude, like Mantor or Mamatoranon.
Pachydermia.
Yeah.
What if this is like the fucking Australian version of the Scottish pachyderm?
That would
I
be
don't know what it
amazing.
would eat because the Scottish pachyderm only eats Englishmen, as we previously discussed. But I don't know what the Australian, maybe the Australian pachyderm, maybe that also only eats Englishmen.
Very well could be. I would figure that the Australian pachyderm would eat anything he can get his hands on.
Yeah, and he's probably venomous too, just because.
Right. But what do you think about when you hear a description like this? I mean, even seeing the picture that was in this report, like the sketch of this thing, they drew it with the big floppy ears, and we see this time again with Mothman. I have a little tattoo of Mothman, and he's got a head, but there's no reports of him having a head. His eyes are set low in his chest.
Yeah, he's like a Blemier with wings.
Yeah, but and most depictions of Mothman have a head.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing to me. Like the fact that the descriptions of the Mothman all are very, very explicit about the fact that it had red eyes that were set in its chest, and then you look at that sculpture in Point Pleasant, and it looks like fucking Annihilus from the Fantastic Four comics.
Yeah, dude, you mentioned that before. It looks exactly like Annihilus, and there's so many things about it that aren't. It's got butterfly wings, for Christ's sakes, but it just you see the marketing even hit cryptozoology.
Yeah, it annoys the shit out of me, and probably more than it should. But I feel like if anywhere is gonna have a statue of the Mothman, it should be Point Pleasant. But they should, with it being as famous as it is, they should get it fucking right. You know, like, we want to see this abomination with glowing red eyes in its chest. I don't want to see fucking Annihilus. I mean, I do want to see Annihilus. Let's be real. Annihilus is fucking awesome. But I don't want to see Annihilus being depicted as the Mothman, because that's not the case. He's clearly a Fantastic Four villain.
Yeah. So what do you think? What comes to your mind when you hear that description? Do you get the horrific image that I get? Because I'm going to send you right now this sketch. And I did it.
There's a sketch. I would very much like to see this sketch and see if it's actually a thing that's from my nightmares. Like, its body looks like the fucking it looks like an elephant, or I'm sorry, not an elephant. It looks like a hippo. Like a hippo if a hippo was standing upright, but then it's got a short trunk. Like, you know what it looks like? It looks like the Pokemon Drowsy.
I was thinking Cubert.
Oh yeah, Cubert too. But Drowsy has more of a body like that. Let me see if I can send you a picture of Drowsy.
Holy shit! Now I know they've made some Pokemon based on cryptids before,
yeah.
And I would be fooled if they didn't do that with this guy.
Yeah, it looks exactly like it. It's fucking, so Pokemon are real is basically, and Pokemon are real, and they live in Australia. And that's the bottom line.
But that's got to be, in all seriousness, one of the oddest things to be reported as seen, man.
Yeah. And so is there any like documentation to back this up, or is this just like hearsay from a witness?
This when I tried to look this up, I only found a few things. I found an article written by Nick Redfern and another type of Wikia for cryptozoology page, and both of them include photos of these news articles. There was one, I believe the one from the Mirror was later. I think that one actually came out in 1978, because in April of 1971, there was a second sighting of what seems to be the same creature. Two men were night fishing on a boat when they, quote, caught a glimpse of something in their lamplight. One of the fishermen picked up the lamp and raised it to see if they can get a better look of what they saw. And when he did, they say they saw, quote, a gray pigmented brute that had a trunk like an elephant. And once the creature was noticed, it took off, much in the same strange gait mentioned by Miss Walsh. Now, UFO researcher Bill Chalker investigated the area in the late 70s. And he said that in 1985, he received a 19-page letter from a gentleman named Cecil McGann. He was a local farmer in that area. The letter told far-out stories about strange lights in the sky, finding their livestock butchered. And on one bizarre tale in this letter, this took place back in 1927 when he was 10 years old, McGann. And his family and his neighbors have been plagued by weird lights in the sky that would shoot around in all directions. And that went on for a few days at this period of time. They were shooting at incredible speeds. For some reason, he noted in his letter that his family had grown so tired of it that they just figured it was, quote, a dancing star. And they would just go to bed after a while. And we both talked about that when seeing something weird in the sky. When it lingers on so much, you kind of just have to, all right, well, I'll see you later, weird UFO thing, and you just leave. So it was kind of funny and relatable to hear him mention that. But he states that the next morning, the cattle seemed agitated and they refused to head out to their normal grazing field. And they refused to do so for a few days. But they eventually returned to grazing. But one day at about 2 p.m., McGann says that he heard the cattle stampede back to the farm in a panic and completely terrorized. The cows even refused to return to their stable paddock area, so they refused to do so much that they had to be housed in a different structure, and they were housed in a different structure for a few days as well. One day, his father noticed that one of the cows had gone missing, so he sent McGann, again, only at 10 years old, but growing up on a farm, this is probably regular shit to do. He just sent him out to go in the fields and look for their cow. And I'll let a quote from him explain what happened. He says, quote, "I walked out to the ridge in our day paddock to see if the cow had ventured out there during the day, and a strange scene confronted me. As I looked down the ridge, there were two objects, one down on a small flat at the bottom of the ridge, and one amid bushes halfway down the ridge. They were moving about and looked like small elephants." The next morning, McGann said that they discovered 3 of their pigs had been butchered behind an 8-foot fence, so they couldn't explain how those animals were killed. But there seems to be a second sighting this thing, and then one from a long time ago, 1927, where he's seeing these small elephant-type things.
And are there any recent sightings of these things, or are they all going back?
Nope, that's
to the early part.
That's the beauty of this sighting. It's just like all those one-offs. It's just these couple sightings and then a supposed maybe sighting of these.
Interesting.
Yeah, these weird things. I can't help. I really want to try and draw one, because when you put it together, it turns into more of a monstrous type of beast. It makes me think of the Grafton monster, some type of headless brute.
Yeah, it's a weird one, man. It does kind of sound like some descriptions of the Bunyip.
It's funny you mentioned that, because on the Facebook post that was sent to us with this short story about Miss Walsh, one of our friends commented that that's the Bunyip, and I was caught off guard by that, because I love the Bunyip. I've read a lot about it. I didn't get that at all. The only thing that kind of made me think is the old engraving of it. You know what it looks like? It has like almost like leaves for feet, and it's got that, maybe not, I wouldn't even describe it as a trunk, but it looks like a bugle almost type mouth. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what one you're talking about. The one from, I think it was from the National Library of Australia, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it was an illustration done in the 1930s.
I think it was even earlier than that. I believe it was from like 1910 or 12.
But it like looks like a creepy, almost like a creepy old-timey cartoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
And then again, it gets the same treatment that Chupacabra's got, is with it transformed into something else, and then you see depictions of it as some type of like water dog.
Right. And a lot of the according to witnesses, it's most of the sightings, more than half of the sightings, are said to resemble, according to the reports, seals or dogs that are swimming. But there is a percentage of them that report these weird, long-necked creatures with small heads, kind of like a Nessie type thing almost. You know, with the elongated neck and the little tiny head on top of the neck. But the the ones that are being reported as dogs or seals or otters or things like that, they tend to be around 5 or 6 feet long, and they're usually black or brown. But they usually will refer to the animal as having a face like a dog and whiskers. Basically like an otter, like a giant otter or a seal is the way that they're described. But then there's this weird variety that's reported that tends to be considerably larger, with some reports saying that they're between 10 and 15 feet long. And they're reported as having large ears and small tusks, and some say it's got a head like a horse, while others say it's got a head like an emu, and there's a mane around its neck, and it's got a tail. But some reports say that it stands upright on its hind legs, like the picture that you sent. And when it's up on its hind legs, that's when it's said to be between 10 and 15 feet tall, and that it will walk on land on its hind legs.
Holy shit.
But in the water, it's got fins, and it'll swim, and it's got flippers and like a amphibious beast or something. But it's able to also stand on its hind legs and walk around. And there's some legends that say that it will lay its eggs in a platypus nest. And mostly these things are said to eat crayfish and other freshwater creatures. But there's some stories in folklore that says it'll stalk humans and eat women and children. But you hear that sort of thing in a lot of folk tales. I think a lot of stories tend to lean towards cautionary tales, and that's why women and children tend to typically be the victims of these stories.
Right.
But with the Bunyip, a lot of the major sightings are from the 1800s. Like there's not a lot of famous sightings in the modern age. It's more like a creature from folklore. But like you said, it seems to be like Australia's version of the chupacabra. Like if there's some weird creature, some weird cryptid, it's just kind of lumped in with the Bunyip.
Yeah, I love the Bunyip. Like I said, I've studied the heck out of it, and all the descriptions that you've given I've heard of before. There's some of them are described as being huge and dangerous as fuck. So none of what you said makes me think of Walking Elephant Dude.
Well, some depictions have it with like this weird protrusion from the front of its face. That's not necessarily a trunk, but the picture that you showed me, it seems to be like a pseudo trunk. Not a full on elephant trunk, but just like this weird little nubby thing, like the drowsy. Or like an anteater, something like that, with just like this weird, like elongated snout rather than an actual trunk. And some of the sightings do talk about prominent ears, but you said the Elephantman sightings don't have ears, so it'd be more like a mammoth man. So that is weird. And some sightings of the Bunyip describe tusks as well as the prominent ears, so I could see how that would be lumped in with an Elephantman. But I don't know. Maybe what if after all it's really just like a elephant seal that somehow showed up in Australia?
Ooh, but see, it had legs and it ran sideways and fast, so efficiently.
Prove it.
Both sightings, dude. Both. Even down to the sideways.
What if it was really just like a trick, like a elephant seal that was taught tricks, and it was just like standing up and like clapping its front flippers like in a display of like, hey, give me some fish, and people are like, oh my god, it's a fucking Bunyip, run. And meanwhile, this poor elephant seal's like, I just want some fish. Where's my fish?
I'm starving.
I'm so hungry. And elephant seals are fucking huge, man. They're like 10, 15 feet long. So maybe. That being said, because they're so fucking huge, I don't think they'd be rearing up on their, standing upright. But
all right, no, I sent you 2 more pictures, and these are the most common pictures of the bunyip you see.
Yep.
Now,
I've seen both of those. And one looks almost exactly like a fucking otter or a seal.
Yeah, it sure does.
And the other one looks like a creepy cartoon.
Yeah, it looks like some type of fucking alien, but it does appear to have some type of trunkish mouth.
Yeah, it's like a weird, I don't even know how to describe it. Like it looks like its face itself is a giant suction cup or something.
Right. It's got like a slender body with noodly limbs.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it. Noodly limbs.
It's got a giant octopus type eyeball.
Yeah. If you go to Google Images and just type in bunyip, you'll definitely see this picture. It's like crawling out of a swamp, and there's some trees in the background. It's got noodly arms and a suction cup face with an eye and like fucking seaweed legs on the back.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome.
It is. It's really fucking cool. I'm a big fan of it.
It was interesting to hear somebody from Australia describe the elephant people as a bunyip, and looking at that and having somebody say that that's a bunyip, that's two different creatures. So somebody's misidentifying something.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's like the chupacabra. How you get this weird fucking kangaroo thing with frills on its back that can fly, and also a dog with mange.
Yeah.
2 very, very different things. Yet anytime a weird dog shows up with mange or a carcass shows up on the highway that looks weird, it's fucking chupacabra. Or the devil monkey. But mostly chupacabra.
So all time-traveling pirate wizards aside, what do you think these elephant things people are seeing are? Because to me, it's just one of these odd, I just don't know creatures. Flatwoods. What the fuck was that guy? These weird, like Sky Spitter, this upright elephant skinned, no ears, tiny eyes, kind of small trunk.
What if it's like a sort of nature spirit, and it's not an actual like cryptid or something like that? What if it has something to do with being a spirit of the place? They're often, I mean, especially with the bunyips, they're associated with fresh water for the most part. So what if it's like some sort of water spirit that it just kind of takes on this weird chimeric form, and from time to time it's witnessed by people, but it's not a physical being, it's just a spirit. And maybe that's why most of the time it's friendly, but sometimes it gets really pissed off and it will attack people because people are shit and they fuck everything up. And he's like, you know what? Today ain't your day. I'm going to fuck your shit up for fucking up my waterway. And then he comes out of the water and he eats some kids and punches their mom in the face and drags her underwater and eats the dog and then kicks the cat and makes the car explode. Because that's what pissed off bunyips do. But if you catch them on a good day, they're just like, I just want to chill in my waterway and eat some crayfish and some snails. Is that so wrong? And no, Mr. Bunyip, that's not so wrong. You're entitled to eat your crayfish and your snails, and just don't eat my kids and punch my wife in the face. That's all I ask.
I wonder if there's a way to coax them into being calm if they are enraged.
Maybe if you present him with shellfish, maybe that's the thing. Like you go to the place where the Bunyip frequents, and you just present him with a platter of shellfish, and then he like comes out of the water. He's like, oh, you know what? You're cool. You get a little fist bump. He eats your shellfish, and then goes back into the water.
How cool would that be if there was some type of beast like that on Earth to where that's what happens? You know, they're like once a month they go to the edge of the water, and you got to bow your head and raise your offering higher than your head, or it'll fucking just bite your head off.
Yeah, if the offering is lower than your head, then clearly your head is in the way of the offering and your face gets eaten.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of bring it on yourself at that point. You know, don't be an asshole.
But once it takes the offering, it's just absolutely cool. It's not going to fucking hang around and bounce around you like a puppy, but it'll let itself
get a fist bump, a little nod.
A little head lick.
Goes back in the water. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
It would be. And then you go home and you tell your friends, yeah, I'm friends with the Bunyip. So what?
Then they beat you up and take your shoes because you're a psycho.
They do. Yeah. But then you trick them and you'll be like, no, I can prove it. But you tell them that they have to hold the platter of shellfish below their head, and then the Bunyip rises up out of the water and eats their faces. And you're like, in your face, asshole. You should have fucking doubted me.
Holy crap. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of you listeners in Australia, you now know what to do with all those bullies. Lure them to the Bunyip spot and tell them to put their platter of shellfish under their faces so that they get eaten.
Yeah, just tell them a Bunyip will appear if you show up with like 2 lobsters in your pants.
Yeah.
Each pocket.
Yeah. It's the only way.
All right. There's been an update on something that we haven't even gotten a chance to release yet. Pardon my nasally voice. I just sneezed like 75,000 times.
Well, by the time this show comes out, it will have been released. So what you heard on the previous week's episode, we now have an update for, which chances are, because you're listening to this episode a week after our other episode release, that you have heard this already probably a week ago. But yeah, so the most recent episode we put out, we actually recorded on, I don't know, what day was that? April 10th, I think we recorded the episode that came out last week. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We record a week in advance. You guys know that. But the episode that we just released, we talked about the all this disclosure stuff, and we talked specifically about this video that was released by Jeremy Corbell showing the flying pyramids. And at the time, it had not been authenticated. It was a video that he got footage that was recorded by the Navy on a naval destroyer, showing these weird glowing pyramid crafts flying over the ship. He released it explaining that, but it hadn't been at the time it hadn't been confirmed as being authentic. I don't remember what we said in the show, if it had been authenticated or not, or if we were just going based off what he said. But as of this today, April 17th, the Pentagon has come out officially and said that this is in fact real footage showing unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs, as basically, for all us fucking old school nerds, UFOs. That's what they said, that they are authentic videos of UFOs that were recorded by the Navy. So, you know, it's exciting times to be a UFO person.
It is. We're not getting the whole platter of disclosure here, but what we are getting, and it's amazing that they're authenticating this footage. And I know, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see, but it's just undeniable now. It's just, if you sit down and think about it, we actually live in a time and place where actual UFOs are flying around, and it's common knowledge to our government, the military. It's just, they're there.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that it's now official when literally like 2 days ago, we were doing a Discord hangout with our European patrons, and we showed this video to them, and we all watched it together because the episode that's coming out was going to be about that. So we wanted to talk to them about it before the episode came out, and everyone was blown away by it because it's a short video clip, but it's very clear what it's showing there, and to now have the Pentagon actually come out and authenticate it and say that this is actual documented footage of unidentified craft, or I shouldn't say craft, unidentified objects flying through the air that are pyramid shaped. I mean, what do you make of that? Like the only thing that makes any sense is that Kung Pao is real.
That's exactly what I thought. And I just wish I knew martial arts and had a weird tongue, but
yeah, if any of our listeners has a tongue,
are you the chosen
has a
one?
Face on it, let us know if you're the chosen one. And in advance, I would like to say that you'll never make it. Never make it. You'll never make it.
Never ever make it. I'm bleeding, making me the victor.
I'm falling. You're falling. We're falling. I fucking love that movie so much.
Oh, God. Taco Bell. Taco Bell.
Betty is the best.
Oh, yeah.
Swinging a chain. Swinging a chain.
Birdie.
Birdie.
My shirt is red.
I love when everyone's doing the bird call and Betty just sits up. I'm a bird too. So good.
Oh, God. Holy shit. Okay. I'm going to take all that shit out, but.
No, you don't. You need to leave the Kung Pao references at Kung Pao for life. I love that movie so much.
Oh, yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Seeing footage like this, it kind of makes me nervous a little bit. Like we're getting the pictures and videos that we always wanted. We're getting photographic and video evidence now. It's, to me, we're at a point, we're at a state to where it's just undeniable and those things are there. And I mean, in the normal traditional order of things, what's next? What are they going to do next?
That's the thing, right? What are they going to do next? Are they going to start saying that they've got alien life forms? Is that the next step? Like where they finally admit that, hey, aliens are real, and then they start bringing them out, and it becomes a thing where we now live in a society where aliens are visiting us and they're part of everyday life. Like, do we get to that point, or is this something that the government genuinely does not know about? And if that's the case, which scenario is scarier?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to really consider there. If they pull the lid off and they reveal that aliens are real and the aliens are visiting us, and then aliens just become part of everyday life where they're interacting with us on a daily basis. We're doing exchanges of ideas. They're giving us technology so that we can visit other galaxies, and it becomes this whole thing. Or because I mean, if it's a situation like that, we are pretty much at their mercy at that point. They've proven themselves to be the superior species, capable of technology that we can hardly even conceive of. So they would already have one up on us there. So we would kind of be like, we not necessarily a slave race, but we would definitely be in a weak position where we would have to follow whatever they tell us. Otherwise, they're more powerful than we are. What are we going to do to stop them if they want to do abductions or wage war against our race or whatever? But on the other side, the fact that the most powerful people in the world have no idea what this is, and it can outmaneuver any of the craft that our military has, that's pretty scary too. And they're not interacting in a way, or I should say communicating in a way that we understand. So it's almost like these things are here. They're doing these things, making themselves known, but they're not even reaching out to us in an attempt to open up any dialogue, or if it's going to be aggressive, they're not making any sort of demands or statements for why they're here, what they want. And to me, that's the more terrifying thing. Like, what are they? Why are they here? What are they doing? And when I say they, I'm not talking about Greys. I'm not talking about the Palladians or the Reptilians. Whatever is behind this sort of phenomenon, whatever intelligence, because clearly they're controlled by some sort of intelligence. So, what is it, and why is it here, and what does it want? And if it wants, like, if it wants something specific, why isn't it making it known? Why is it staying silent? Why is it staying hidden and secret?
Absolutely. I was going to say that's part of why it's scary for me, is that they are clearly making themselves known with shit like this. It's not just the fact that this is being authenticated by the government. It's that footage like this is being captured, period. This is happening. And they're not saying anything. They're not trying to do anything that we know of. Or like you said, that we understand. But that it's just, that's a big part of why it's scary to me. And I kind of just think of how we're not waiting for it, or some people maybe are. The whole Independence Day movie thing, where these giant things just move in, where, over cities all over the place, and then they just sit there for a couple days, and that was scary. That was part of the element of fear in those scenes of the movie. But I wonder if in that universe, UFO nerds have been saying for a long time that there's footage like this that's been coming out. Maybe there was a step before those giant ships moving in over cities, and it was them showing up like this, definitely making themselves known. I'm worried about what the next step would be. Maybe not so much of them shooting lasers and enslaving everybody, but we've talked about many times about how we thought the human race is ready to hear the news that there's other life out there. But in the past few years, people's reactions to a lot of things, and I'm not saying that these reactions are unjustified. There's a lot of million angles that people can look at things and agree with and disagree. Don't want to be political at all, but it's just they're definitely not, and that's another scary aspect about it.
I feel like at this point I'm just so fucking jaded that I find it difficult to get really excited about the stuff that the government is declassifying or confirming as being real, and it leads me more towards feeling like there's a reason behind this, and it's not an attempt at transparency or disclosure. It's more setting the stage for something else, and we've talked about that a lot of times and discussed Blue Book and everything, but I just can't help but feel that that's more the direction that this is going in, rather than any real authentic disclosure or real answers as to what these things are.
Weird shit, dude. That pyramid footage and those photos kind of did it for me. I was like, man,
yeah.
What do we say now?
Yeah, I mean, if those are actually real, what do we say? But if it's part of like some weird psyop where they're just trying to sell the idea that this thing is real, then it's something else completely. And to me, that's equally as terrifying, because it's still, even though it's not like this weird otherworldly intelligence that's just kind of out there, that's enigmatic and not even trying to interact or explain itself. But the idea that the military or some sort of weird organization that we're a secret organization maybe that we're not even aware of is trying to get this idea out there to kind of cover up something else that's going on or that will go on, or to create a scapegoat or plausible deniability when shit goes down. I don't know. That shit that scares the hell out of me.
Fingers crossed it ends up like Alien Nation.
I would be happy with an ET sort of scenario, you know, just like leave somebody behind, let them chill out for a while, with the exception of having fucking asshole government agencies contained and almost kill it. But, you know, I'm just talking more about the landing, leave some dude behind, then be like, oh shit, let's go back and get it and get out of here.
But that's going to happen though, right? I mean, no matter what, if they come down in complete peace and want to talk, or if they just land and start a fight at some base in the desert we don't know about and they take a couple captive, I mean, they're going to go through the ringer with experimentation, right? That's going to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's plenty of stories about that anyway, like the Krill documents that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, this is probably years ago now, but those Krill documents, I'll talk about a biological entity that was retrieved from a crash site that the military was able to keep alive and communicate with and work with, and then there's the whole Valiant Thor thing and the idea that Pleiadians have been working with the government, or the famous Eisenhower disappearance where he was taken aboard a spacecraft and told by the Pleiadians to disarm and give up nuclear war, and then he's like, fuck you, and then the Greys gave him weapons and he's like, yeah, you can abduct whoever you want, motherfuckers, and they're like, we will do just that, thank you very much. I don't know, there's just so many stories and secrets about this sort of thing. It's just really hard. And I think it's intentional that it's really hard to figure out what's real and what's made up and what's being used as a psyop and what's being used as a cover-up. And it's a great big clusterfuck. And really, I just want the chosen one to pull a pyramid out of the sky with his tongue.
Yeah, the waters are definitely muddied for sure. I don't want pyramids, Alien Nation. Beg my wife to let me have an alien girlfriend. Make alien babies.
We're doing it to help their species. Come on, you understand, don't you?
It's a bonding of complete race species.
It doesn't mean I love you any less. I just want to bang an alien. Come on. With their big heads.
Yeah, the ones in Alien Nation, their head's only a little bit big. You can.
I wouldn't say a little bit big. I'd say they're pretty large. Those are some big dome pieces they got going on. I mean, granted, they're not disproportionately large like a gray head or anything, but they're pretty fucking, like, those are like pumpkin head size large.
Keep that in mind, folks. If you've got a pumpkin sized head, Mike's not with it.
It's not that I'm not with it. I just know what you're up to. You're up to shenanigans. You're up to alien shenanigans, and I may or may not be opposed or for it. It depends on what sort of shenanigans they are. So let me know about your shenanigans, and I'll tell you if I'm opposed or for it, and we will treat you accordingly.
I'm just waiting for one of the aliens to land and jump out of his spaceship and be like, "Where's my brother?" And do some weird Thanos snap and kill everything.
Oh man, I hope so. Why are you prolonging this, alien? Just snap us out of existence now. Fuck. I've had enough.
Yeah, he's going to jump out and be like, "You guys fucking suck."
And he's not wrong. He really isn't. You know, keep the animals. Just get rid of the fucking people.
No.
The animals aren't fucking shit up.
He'd be like, even the animals are assholes compared to what they used to be. Everything's gone.
Well, if anything, it's because of us, though. Let's be real.
Oh, yeah.
You can get rid of screaming deer.
Mike's nemesis.
My arch nemesis, the screaming deer.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.